Hi, Helen. Thanks for taking the time to hear me out today. I'd like to talk through an ethical dilemma I'm currently reflecting on regarding my work with Nathan, a 24-year-old Aboriginal client who's been referred for psychological assessment by his local GP due to persistent low mood and possible ADHD. The core ethical tension I'm navigating is between two standards from the APS Code of Ethics, B.13, which guides psychologists to use established scientific procedures and psychometric standards when conducting assessments, and A.3, which concerns the importance of informed consent, ensuring that clients are fully informed about any procedures and feel free to decline or withdraw. Nathan expressed that standardized assessment tools, especially questionnaires, don't align with how he or his community understand or talk about emotions. So I'm facing the challenge of fulfilling my ethical responsibility to conduct competent, evidence-based assessment, while also ensuring that Nathan's cultural identity is respected and that any assessment procedures we use are meaningfully and freely consented to. This dilemma touches on several sections of the APS code and the APS guidelines for the provision of psychological services for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, such as from Principle A, respect. I'm guided by A.1.1 to avoid discrimination and to respect cultural values, and A.3.3, which says clients must know they can decline or withdraw from any proposed methods or procedures. From Principle B, propriety, B.1.3 reminds me that I must seek supervision to maintain competence, and B.13.1 says I need to use scientifically sound assessment procedures. From Guideline 4, competence, 4.6 states psychologists are aware that some Indigenous styles of interpersonal interaction may differ from those interaction styles found among non-Indigenous people, and psychologists are aware that such differences may affect the outcome of psychological assessment. From Guideline 2, respecting justice, 2.1 advises decisions related to the type of psychological service to be provided are a collaborative exercise between the psychologist and the Indigenous client. The ethical challenge is how to maintain a high standard of care while adapting that care to be appropriate and safe in Nathan's cultural context. I am, however, in a peculiar values trap here. One thing I've been reflecting on is my own internal pressure to perfect my psychological services whilst meeting the expectations of referrers and the profession. As someone new to working cross-culturally, I know there's a risk I might unconsciously overemphasize structured tools and frameworks because they feel safe and familiar to me. That could steer me into privileging professional norms over what's culturally respectful and effective for Nathan. I need to be mindful not to let my own sense of professional insecurity or desire for competence lead me into over relying on standardized tools at the expense of culturally safe practice. If I do, I risk unintentionally replicating colonial patterns and imposing a model that Nathan has already said doesn't reflect his way of seeing things. In consideration of the rights and vulnerabilities here, Nathan's rights here are central. Under A.3 informed consent, he has the right to understand the purpose and nature of assessments and to say no if they feel culturally inappropriate. He's also in a potentially vulnerable position where he's experiencing distress, may face systemic barriers to accessing support elsewhere, and has had prior negative experiences with tick box approaches. As a provisional psychologist, I'm also in a vulnerable position here in terms of experience and cultural competence, but I'm also responsible for ensuring that I don't contribute to Nathan feeling further misunderstood or pathologized. That means seeking supervision and cultural consultation in line with B.1.3. So I've come to formulate two possible decisions here. Option one is administer the standard screeners as planned, explaining them again and encouraging participation. And option two, I co-develop a culturally responsive assessment approach, starting with narrative-based yarning, engaging in clinical judgment over time, and only using screeners if and when Nathan feels comfortable, with cultural guidance informing how we interpret them. Regarding the consequences of option one, however, I meet the referrer's expectations and follow standard protocol. However, I risk alienating Nathan, damaging rapport, and producing data that isn't valid for his cultural context. Ultimately, I'm doing more harm than good. With option two, however, I prioritize Nathan's autonomy and cultural safety. I may initially fall short of traditional assessment standards, but I uphold ethical standards of informed consent and justice. By involving my supervisor and a cultural mentor, I maintain professional integrity while building trust with Nathan. Over time, I may still gather clinically useful information in a way that respects his culture. After weighing both options, I've decided to move forward with option two, a collaborative and culturally sensitive approach. I'll engage Nathan in a yarning-based conversation to understand his experiences and strengths, rather than pushing formal screeners at this stage. I'll seek supervision and consult with an Aboriginal mental health worker or cultural liaison to co-develop ways of assessing symptoms that feel safe and relevant for Nathan. If Nathan later feels more comfortable with some structured assessment, we can revisit that together, but I'll be transparent about the process and make sure any methods we use are aligned with his values and preferences. Thanks again for your time, Helen. I really appreciate your feedback on this approach, particularly around ways to integrate cultural guidance into my assessment process and how to document this ethically. I want to ensure I'm honoring both the APS code and guidelines so that Nathan's unique voice is involved in how we move forward together. Thank you.